We made it to Joshua Tree National Park, and the first thing we're doing is moving sites. When we got here yesterday, we unknowingly set up in a double site. Didn't realize till almost dark that night. So the campground wasn't full, so we decided we would just stay there last night and go ahead and pick another site this morning. So thankfully, there are a couple of sites to choose from that will fit us that are single sites. We are staying in the Belle Campground, which is 18 sites. So not a huge campground. Everything in Joshua Tree is dry camping for $15 a night. Okay, while TJ gets the trailer ready, I've set up a chair in our new spot so that just in case anybody comes into the campground while we're hitching the trailer back up and moving and wants to take our spot, now we've claimed it. It should only take us about 15 minutes to get moved over here, but we just don't want to take that chance. All right, it stinks to have to set up and break down twice back to back like this, but it was just a silly mistake on our part. I think we were tired when we got in yesterday and saw a nice big site and said, oh sweet, we'll fit into that, and didn't even notice that there were 2 markers there. So mistakes happen, but we're correcting it today. Relax, relax, relax. Okay, sit. So, Madly's going crazy. All right, are you finished? We are riding in the trailer while TJ moves site. It's just easier than packing everything up inside to just stay inside and keep an eye on everything and make sure nothing is falling down and getting broken where it should be put up. It's an interesting experience to ride inside the trailer while it's moving. You know, we're certainly not going very fast. If I had to guess, maybe 5 or 10 miles an hour. Kind of a cool experience. So they say that the inside of a trailer while you're towing is like, I don't remember what magnitude, but it's like an earthquake inside. And I can see that. That's why you should not leave any animals. You shouldn't leave your pets in the trailer. That's why they need to ride in the tow vehicle. So kind of an interesting experience though to do this just real quickly while we move, you know, maybe a few hundred feet from one site to another. All right, I think we're getting to our site. Well, that did not work out 100% according to plan. In the 10 or 15 minutes it took to get the trailer up to the new spot, somebody had pulled in with their car and was claiming it for their own. They decided to just completely ignore the chair that I set up. He wasn't willing to move, wanted to make an issue out of it. Thankfully, there was another spot that we could take, and it's another good spot. So, you know, it is what it is. Kind of an interesting way to start the day, but we're gonna move past it.
All right, so we're getting out today here in Joshua Tree National Park.
Doing our first hike of the trip. We went to the visitor center and got a map and asked the ranger what her favorite hike was in the park, and she recommended this one. It's called Wall Street Mill.
Yep, so we're gonna check it out and we'll see how it goes.
So one of the reasons the ranger said she really liked this trail was because there was a lot of mining history and artifacts along this trail. So within Joshua Tree National Park back in the early 1900s, this was a big area for mining. And there's an interesting story along this trail that has to do with William Keyes and Worth Bagley, which were 2 landowners in this area. They were constantly bickering over land use.
And they somehow came together on this trail or in this area. And according to William Keyes, Worth Bagley ambushed him here, and a gunfight ensued and ended with Worth Bagley dead.
Yeah, William Keyes actually served, I think, about 5 years in San Quentin State Penitentiary.
Yep.
And then upon his release, returned to his home here and put up a statue commemorating the location that he got rid of his foe. What's his name?
Worth Bagley.
Worth Bagley. Strange names. So anyways, there's a reproduction of that sign behind us. Unfortunately, the original sign was vandalized, and so the park ended up moving it to a museum for safekeeping, but they put a reproduction here. Definitely an interesting, colorful story.
All right, we're headed back from the Wall Street Mill Trail.
Yeah, that was a pretty cool trail. It was 2 miles out and back, so really very easy trail. In fact, looking at the list of trails in Joshua Tree, for the most part, they all seem to be
Relatively short and relatively easy.
exactly. I think the longest trail I saw was 8 miles with 1,000 feet of elevation gain, and they called that strenuous. So, you know, you're in the desert out here, there's not going to be a ton of elevation gain, so it makes for some really nice, leisurely, beautiful hikes.
I believe the newspaper that we're reading off of is also the summer edition, and I remember the ranger mentioning that a lot of the trails are marked
Like not
strenuous because of temperature,
Right.
because it gets hot in the summer.
Yeah, they actually recommend not hiking those trails during the summer, but we're here in December. It's plenty cool enough, so we can hike anything we want.
We've come to the Cholla Cactus Garden. It's a short quarter-mile hike. It's on the southeastern end of the park.
So Joshua Tree National Park is split into 2 desert environments. The eastern side of the park is the Colorado Desert, which is below 3,000 feet elevation, and the western side is the Mojave Desert, which is above 3,000 feet, and they look totally different. It's actually really interesting. The western side, the Mojave Desert, is where you get the Joshua trees and the big piles of like Flintstone rocks.
Right.
And then when you move east into the Colorado Desert, the Joshua trees go away, and you get actually a little more mountainous.
It's mountainous, but then there's huge areas of just flat, deserty area that really don't have a whole lot of vegetation.
Mm-hmm.
And then we come across this cactus garden, which is just acres of cactus.
Yeah, I mean, thousands and thousands of them. They're nasty little suckers, but it's just amazing to see this many concentrated in one area. Really cool.
Very neat.
So this Choya, it's spelled Cholla, C-H-O-L-L-A, but it's pronounced Choya. And this guy has actually died. but it allows you to see what's underneath the spines is this really neat, almost wooden looking structure with all these holes in it. It is so cold.
It's really cold.
We might die out here.
It's not that cold. It's very windy.
It's windy, yeah. The wind makes the cold that much worse, but I think it's worth it. It's pretty
awesome.
Pretty awesome.
All right, next up is the 49 Palms Oasis Trail. It's a 3 mile?
Yeah, 3 mile out and back.
Yep, let's go.
So this trail hikes up and over a ridge and then down into a valley to an oasis. It just sounded kind of magical.
What's an oasis?
An oasis, funny you should ask. An oasis is a crack in the Earth's crust at a fault line where the water comes up to the surface and allows lush plants to grow in a desert. So like palm trees and I don't know, we're about to see. Alright, well this is the oasis behind us. The 49 Palms Oasis to be specific.
Yep, about 1.5 miles in. It's an out and back trail, not a loop. Mm-hmm. And it's, I don't want to say it's easy, but it's not hard either. It's an intermediate trail.
And it is magical. I love it. I've never experienced something like this before, and it's really cool to just be walking through this real desolate rocky terrain and then all of a sudden green and palm trees. It's very tropical and I don't know, I think it's magical. I really like it.
Pretty neat, yeah. One thing we are finding about Joshua Tree, and maybe this is true about all desert hiking, I'm not sure, but the main trail, from what we can tell, usually has about 5,000 offshoots.
It's true. Very, very easy to get lost.
So if you're hiking in the desert, or at least in Joshua Tree, pay close attention to the trail you're on and try to make a mental note of how to get back to it, because we're finding it very easy to get off of it and get lost.
Well, yes, that's true. But we've found our way back on the trail. Both times it's happened.
Traditional national park, they want you to stay on a specific trail. They don't want you wandering off and destroying vegetation that hasn't been marked as a trail, but not the case here. Go where you want.
Well, I think this is our last trail of the trip.
Yep, it's getting late in the day, and this is just a short 1 mile out and back. Okay, we've come to the Hidden Valley Trail.
And it's a popular trail in the park. Number one, because you're surrounded by these really cool rock formations that are totally reminiscent of the Flintstones. I'm pretty sure that the cartoonists that drew the Flintstones visited this area for inspiration.
Yeah, it looks like a Disney set here.
Interesting history to it. Cattle ranchers back in the early 1900s would use this as sort of like a natural cattle corral, if you will. And it tended to be people that were perhaps like stealing herds.
Cattle rustlers.
And so they would hide the cattle that they had stolen in this area. So really neat natural formation though. Fun place to explore. Well, this is the namesake of this national park. This is a Joshua tree. It is a really interesting looking tree that's technically not really a tree. It's actually in the yucca family. The trunk looks very much like a tree. It's got bark like a tree, but then as it branches out, they get almost palm-like, and it's unlike anything we've ever seen before. Really cool tree. Okay, so potentially favorite part of our trip to Joshua Tree National Park?
One of the shortest trails we've done. That was a really great trail.
It was. Super enjoyable.
Nice easy walk, really scenic. Perfect time of day. We're here right as sun's going down and the full moon coming up. It's just incredible. All right, this is it for Joshua Tree.
Yeah, it's been another cool national park. You know, when we were considering coming here, we were like, it's a desert. All deserts aren't all deserts the same. We were kind of the same way when we were considering going to Crater Lake. We were like, we've seen 1,000 lakes. How could this be different? But that's what makes the national parks is that they are
totally unique for sure.
Absolutely. You know, we've never seen a Joshua tree before. The cool Flintstone rocks, the Oasis, those cool Cholla Cactus
Gardens. Yeah.
It's just been a really cool stay. Even though we're not desert people, we've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But we are headed out today.
Yep. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, please be sure to give us a thumbs up.
And if you want to keep following along, make sure you subscribe.
Thanks for watching, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.